so I want to look at your assignments here. And one thing that I like to do with like our midterm project and our I call it our late term project because it will go a little bit past midterm, and also our final project is I like to make what appears to be an assignment but is not actually an assignment. So here we're going to be doing a project by Imbue. Yes, Landy, did you tell them? Oh, you were? Yeah. Oh, yeah. He sent it over, and I promise to say that this is definitely Imbue's design, right? It's copyrighted, it's theirs, so they're very kind to let us use it for our class here, but and it's on the drawings, right? But it's their intellectual property, right? So don't take it and do anything with it. It is an unbuilt project, so I don't think there's any privacy issue, right? But it is their design and their work, so. But we're going to be doing a little cabin by Imbue Design. They're a few guys that I went to school with, and they're doing some pretty fun projects all over, actually. So we're going to be doing that. But what I want to show you here is that I like to, so I group this, obviously, late term project. Here's our Imbue cabin. And this says, this is just the PDF file for the drawings, not the actual assignment. Okay? So within that fake, we'll call it a faux assignment, there's really just a PDF of the drawings. So if you ever need to get the PDF, if you want to print it, do anything with it, you can download it there, and here it is. Okay. So this is just a little project, and I think it's always kind of good to start out with a little project, of course, right? This is their front page is kind of a rendering of the project. Like I said, this is unbuilt, so it's still kind of fun. Here's a site plan that shows where the property, what the property looks like, the topography of the site, where the project will lay on the site. Here's the floor plan of the project. So not very big, not too complicated, right? But we've got a living room around over here, right? We've got a kitchen and dining area over here. We have a patio out here, right? We've got a fireplace here. Moving back here into the kind of private living quarters, right? We have a bedroom here. We have a bedroom here. Looks like we have a little pass-through here with a not so private shower, right? Which is kind of fun. I like it, right? I like it. And we've got showers here, right? And then we have double bathrooms and closets, and looks like washer and dryers over here, and that maybe looks like a little closet there, little nook or something. We have our entries over here as well. So just kind of I think a nice little project to get started with. I think what we'll do with this is we will draw this, and then I might make a few changes to it. Like, they don't have a basement with this project, but just for the sake of us practicing our basement walls, we'll add a basement to it, right? So we may do that and do some fun things like that. So there's the floor plan. This is their crawl space plan. So nothing really down there. And here is their roof plan. This is what it looks like. So we'll be doing roof plans, of course. And here's some elevation views of it. There you go. So they have some nice drawings here. I think they're very, very readable, which makes me very happy, right? Because I want you to see some good drawings. I want you to see some good designs really early and just kind of see what drawings can look like. So some more elevations just so you know how things look, right? There you go. Just very simple. People doing yoga out on their patio there. Their little dog, of course. What's that?
So that's why I was laughing at the shadows and people like that one above. That looks like a little seductive. Like.
Oh, is there another? Oh, yeah. Ooh, she's kind of saucy, right? I always kind of laugh because when I was in school, we didn't use Revit because it was too soon, right? It wasn't highly used. We used AutoCAD, but we would download blocks all the time online, right? And there was one website that everybody liked and was generally like you wouldn't get a virus or whatever if you were downloading. But every now and again you'd run into these like extremely profane blocks of AutoCAD people online. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, who draws an AutoCAD stripper? You know, or I remember too. I remember vomiting frat boy and stripper. I was like, who takes the time to draw an outline of, anyway, they must have a lot of time on their hands. So she looks like she's excited. Oh, she's taking a shower. That's why, probably. She's like washing her hair.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's the shower you're saying wasn't so
Yeah, not so private shower.
private.
Pretty fun. So we have a pretty good set of drawings, and I think that we have everything here to copy them, essentially, right? So we have a building section here that shows all the different heights. So here's the main level, right? And then we've got top of roof, and we have top of wall over here. So I think we have everything to kind of just copy these drawings here. There's somebody sleeping in the bed. Little covers, right? Yeah. Another lady showering in the shower there. All right. My husband thinks, well, and I think people get really irritated with him over this, but he likes to put Corbu's man in there. Do you guys know what Corbu's, the modular man, looks like? I have to show you quick. We'll get going here real soon, I probably. Right? This famous guy that you see all the time with all the golden proportions associated with it, right? So he likes to sneak this guy into a lot of drawings, and people get super irritated with him. But there you go. See, they're doing it. Anyway, so this is what we'll mimic, and I think what I want to do today is I want to start drawing this, so you can kind of see me go about how I go about kind of drawing things. And then for your assignment for this next coming week, I want you to also do the same. So you don't really know how to define walls or define roof systems or anything like that, right? But you will know how to use the wall command and how to draw a line, element with the wall command and all that good stuff. So that will be your assignment. I will publish that now. Here we go. So your assignment will be to open a new Revit file, save the folder, create your backup files, and then save it somewhere on your computer that you can find. I want you to set up levels in the house, and then I want you to draw the main level walls, essentially, the interior and exterior walls. And the main thing, and I'll focus on this today, is I want you to use the correct base and top constraints for the main level walls. And I don't really care at this point what type of walls you use. I just want you to use generic walls and just start drawing, essentially, right? Just get used to the software. So that'll kind of be the focus for your first assignment with this project. And I'm abbreviating it IC, Imbue Cabin, right? That'll be our little abbreviation for it. So usually the way that I like to work, you have two screens, and so you're probably going to start making the most of two screens. And usually I'll take my PDF over here and I will drop it onto my second screen, and I will look at it on my second screen and then draw it on my first screen, right? Today I'm going to try and fit both of these on the same screen so we can see what I'm looking at and see what I'm drawing. But if you'd like, also, you can print these out, right? So if you want to print this drawing set out here, you just use our printer and print 11 by 17, right? And you can take a copy home with you if you want to. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit here, and I'm gonna download a second copy of this real quick. Let's see, Imbue Cabin. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm going to open this on my second screen as well as try and fit it on our first screen so I have a good view on both screens. Okay. And I'm going to, just like your assignment, I'm going to open up a blank template file. I'm going to open up the architectural template file here, and I'm going to save it. So I click on architectural template there. Everything wonderfully comes up, and I'm going to File, Save As, and I'm going to go to my desktop and Revit, and I will call this IC Imbue Cabin Project, and we'll call this IC _ Shelly Bodily. and I'm just gonna make sure 3 backups are running. Okay, and save it. And so now in my file structure, desktop and Revit, there is my file. Okay, so let's see if we can get both of these on the screen. Revit's a little more tricky because I have all of these tool palettes, I guess I should say. Big tool palettes that need to sort of fit here. Maybe I'll try and stack these if it'll let me. Oh, well. It's not wanting to. So they're just going to be, they're going to be tabbed. Do you see that? I'm running into that issue now where my screens are extended, right? Let's try one more time here, see if I can get it to dock up there. Oh, shoot, no. Oh, maybe. There we go. Ahaha, there we go. Okay, that's what I want to see. All right, so I have my project browser down here, and I have my properties dialog box up here. So that'll work out. I can do this, and then I will I'm gonna re-download this again. Save as stop. I see. Okay, and we're gonna open up another session of Acrobat here. All right. Somebody's printing. Okay. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is I've saved my file. That's number one, right? But the next thing I'm going to do is I need to generate my levels, right? Because all of my architectural elements, meaning walls that I'm going to be generating here, they will be defined at the top and the bottom by our level constraints, okay? So for this project, if I wanted to find out what the, the main level and the top of wall dimensions were, I would go down to this section, I would find that. This is another thing, so beginning designers are going to have to get used to is, actually looking at the plans, right? And sort of figuring out all of the different datums, the heights for elements in your drawings, okay? A building elevation can give you those, but I think for our purposes we need to find a building section. And I'm just showing you how to find this out, but I've given you definitions in the assignment for this. So if you look here, the top of the main floor is 5932 feet above sea level. And if you look over here a little bit, right, that's the top of the floor we were just looking at. We have kind of this top of wall constraint here, okay? It does slope up, the roof does slope up, but we'll deal with that a little bit later. So they're calling it top of beam. That's 59, excuse me, 59, we'll say 42, we'll round it a little bit. So from 5932 to 5942, it's about 10 feet, right? So we're just gonna round. There's two different ways to indicate height generally on architectural drawings. So what they've done here is they've used actual elevation above sea level, 5,942 foot 3 inches above sea level, right? Another way that you'll see this indicated in our architectural drawings is this will be elevation 100, and then if this is 10 foot 3 inches above the 100 mark, it'll be 110 foot 3, right? So this is probably the more accurate method of going about it, looking at the survey and figuring that out. So, but we have to kind of do our math and kind of figure out the difference between them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some levels. And to create my levels, I'm going to remind you that you have to be in a sectional or elevation view to create your levels, all right? So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to first of all close up ceiling plans. And I'm going to do that because it is very easy to double click on something that says level 1. even though it's a ceiling plan. I don't want to get messed up where I'm drawing, right? So I'm just going to close that up. I'm going to go to my north elevation here, and I'm going to look at the levels I currently have. So level 1 is going to be at 0. That will be our 0. And then 10 feet above that will be our level 2. So we already have these 2 levels that are already generated, and they seem to be at the right height. Okay, so we're just going to kind of stick with that. Okay, so now I'm going to pop back up here to the floor plan. Our next lecture is going to be about creating wall types. Again, we're not going to be worried about that today. I just want you to get used to drawing a little bit. So you're going to notice here there's some interesting wall types. This is CMU, and we have a furred out wall on the inside that's probably a wood stud with gypsum board on it. We're just going to do basic generic walls right now. We're not going to worry that, you know, the actual dimension of this outer wall. We're not going to worry about these inner wall dimensions just yet. We're just going to draw everything the same dimension, okay? So might get a little bit tricky, but I think we'll be okay. Another thing I want you to notice, right, we have these grid lines here. Grid lines are going to show line of structure, right? So we have an outer line of structure right here. We have another one here, changes in plane of the wall, right? We have one here that looks like it's this interior wall here, another structural wall. And number 4 is this wall. 5 is this wall. 6, we have this outer wall here. And then 7, this wall, and 8 is the line, probably the support of the deck over here. Okay, so these grids will give us dimensions. We can look at them and we can see dimensions between them, of course. We can see overall dimensions that we want to achieve, right? There's also going to be horizontal grids here, so A, B, C, D, E, and those, of course, also relate to lines of structure. And of course, they have dimensions as well, right? So I'm saying all this because this house, you want to find the dimensions of it so you can draw it accurately, right? We're also going to notice that there are dimensions on the inside of the house. So, you know, we have, this is to furniture, but we do have some interior dimensions showing us, you know, the width of the hallway, the width of the bathroom here, another width of the bathroom, another hallway, right? There's actually a minimal amount of dimensions here, but I think with what we have between the grids and the interior dimensions, I actually think we'll be pretty okay, right? But we might have to kind of figure something out, essentially. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I've got my levels generated. I'm going to go back to floor plan level 1, double click, okay? And I'm going to use my wall command, and I'm going to use my measuring command, and I'm going to use my reference planes to help me sort of start placing these walls, essentially, okay? So looking at this, and I'm thinking, well, what would be the best way to sort of start generating this, right? And I think probably, maybe I'll just kind of start by, maybe we'll start here at the entry. Maybe, yeah, that's probably a good place. I might change my mind, right? But let's just start at the entry here. Okay, so it looks like from, let's see here. Sorry guys, I'm trying to figure out the best place. Maybe not the entry. Maybe we'll just start here at the end and we'll start drawing things. Down over here? Yeah, maybe. And I'm trying to think, I don't want to worry too much about the wall type here, right? So I think really I'm not going to worry about the dimension of this wall, and that'll make sense as I start drawing. Okay, well, let's do this. I'm going to start drawing some reference planes, and I'm going to start drawing some reference planes to sort of indicate where these grids are. Okay, so I'm going to go to under architecture, and all the way at the end I have reference planes, and it's also RP. RP, and I'm just going to draw a reference plane through my drawing space. Okay, so that maybe will indicate level or grid line 1. Now we have another grid line 2 at 6 foot off of level 1. So I'm going to create another reference plane using my pick tool. 6 foot, enter. There we go. Okay, and I have another one 9 feet off of that. Now I want to remind you these reference planes, these are kind of like construction lines, okay? They're invisible when you print, but you can see them on the screen and they'll help you draw things, okay? I could also just draw grids in here, but we're not quite to that level yet. We will be eventually. So my next one is, so we have the 6 foot, we have the 9 foot, now we have a 4 foot. So I'm going to do another pick with an offset of 4 foot. There we go. And I have a 10 foot 6 pick coming up. 10 space 6. Okay, and then I have a 4 foot 6. 4 foot 6. And we have an 8 foot 6. 8 foot 6. And we have a 4 foot. Okay. So essentially here I've just sort of set up the structural grid. That will probably help us draw. And I'm going to set up the horizontal one. So we have A, which is just RP reference plane. I'm going to draw. Okay. And the next one, B, is 4 foot from that. So RP reference plane. 4 foot. There we go. 12 foot 9. So another pick. 12 foot 9. There we go. And we have 6 foot 3. There we go. 19 feet. Here we go. And we're at the end. Okay. So this is kind of our system now. This is where we're going to be drawing the house. And I think I'll probably just kind of start up in this top corner here, where grid line 2 meets grid line A. Okay. There's a window there, but I'm not going to worry about windows just yet. We don't know how to do windows yet. We will in about 2 class periods, but we don't know yet, right? And I'm just going to draw on this line of structure here. Okay, so I'm going to pick just a generic wall type. So I'm going to, yep.
So we're not supposed to follow along with you, right?
No, you don't have to. No, I'm recording it and I'll put it on YouTube. So if later on you want to, you can. Yeah, yep. But if you'd like to, you can. Yeah, that's kind of what I figure. I mean, I go a little bit quick, but I know that you'll be able to look at it again if you want, you know, so. All right. So I'm going to start here at 2 and A. So here's, in fact, I'm going to rename remember how I told you could name your reference planes, right? So I'm going to name this 1 just so I don't get confused. And we'll name this one, click to name A, capital A, enter. And I have my 2 lines just in case I forget, right? I can see that's 1 and that's A. And I could name them all if I wanted to. All right, so to start this process, we're going to go to 2 and A, which happens to be right here at this intersection, right? And I'm going to draw a wall. And I'm going to say this, this is the first time I've drawn this cabin here. So we might run into kind of some weirdness and I might have to back up, right? Or we might have to redo something. We might have to go a different way, but we'll figure it out. I'm sort of coming to the conclusion immediately that we're just going to draw the walls without this block on the outside. We're just going to draw these furred out walls essentially. And I think that will make the house really easy to draw. Okay, so I'm going to click on wall and we can pick the wall we want. So I'm going to use a little drop down here. And I think what I'm going to do is just pick a generic 6-inch wall. Okay. And that's the wall we're going to use to draw this entire house. Okay, for now. Next week we'll learn how to define walls and I'll show you how to define a wall with CMU on the outside. And then we can go from there. All right, so I'm going to start my wall here. A couple of things, this is good. I'm going to show you how to draw, but I'm also going to give you a little bit more insight into some of the drawing tools, right? We went over them. We know about line, we know about arc, we know about rectangle, right? We know about the pick. But I want to talk about how you use some of these to draw as well. And I want you to notice a few things. If I were to start drawing this wall right here, okay, and it's a window, of course, But what I want to do is, do you think I'd want to draw a wall center line like that? No, right? I want to draw it so that it's in line with that grid. Okay, so when I go to draw, one of the first settings I'm going to pay attention to is how I'm drawing this, and that's called a location line. Okay, so if you look over here into your properties dialog box, you'll see the location line says wall center line. Well, I can change that. You'll also see the same setting up here in the modify toolbar. So I could change it here or I could change it here. But essentially I'm going to drop down and I'm going to choose how I want to draw this object. And in this case I want to draw it from the finished face of the exterior, meaning when I draw, the finished face of the outside follows that grid line, right? Okay, and I can change that to whatever I wanted. If I wanted the finished face of the interior, I would click on that and see it would be on the inside of the wall instead of the outside. Okay, so I can change the location line depending on how I want to align something. All right, so there's my first setting. And I need to go back and show you another thing in a second. But we're not going to leave openings for doors, right? And I think what we'll do too is we've got this little bump out here. I'll show you how to deal with that a little bit later. But my first sort of inclination to draw this is I'm going to draw a wall all the way from 2 all the way over to 7. And I'll come back to this area. Then I'm going to draw a wall all the way from grid line A here down to grid line C, right? So I'll come down, I'll go down this way, I'll come over here to grid line 6, and then I'll go from grid line C straight down to the bottom to grid line E, and then I'll head this direction all the way over, solid line again, or wall, all the way over to grid line 1, then up to grid line D, over to 2, and then up to A, right? So I'll just follow this line all the way around. And then once I have all those outside dimensions done, I'm going to start tackling the inside walls, right? So I'll look over here and say, well, the kitchen, you know, it kind of starts at the outside wall and goes over to 3, grid line 3, and then it'll drop down to the end here, right? Again, this isn't going to be exactly what the house is going to look like, but we're just drawing for practice. And then I'll look over here at the entry and I'll see, well, I have a wall here. It's not on a grid line, but I see that I have a wall that is on grid line 3, right? And it goes from grid line D and this interior wall all the way up to there, right? So it goes to this grid line, and then I have 2'1", right? So this wall dimension doesn't have a grid line associated with it, but I know that I can go up to grid line C, and then I have another dimension 2'1" to get it where it needs to be. Okay, so I think, you know, half the battle of this being able to draw is going to be being able to figure out where things are and the best way to draw them, right? This is a rather small project. It's not super complicated. All right, so we're going to draw. We started drawing over here, right, from grid line 2 all the way to grid line 7. Okay, so grid line 7 is right there. So you notice that my intersection snap engages, and I click, and I'm going to hit escape for now. So there's my first wall. Okay, I'm going to pop into 3D and just take a look at it because I like to see my progress, right? Look at that. We've got a little wall going on. Okay. But one thing I didn't do here, right, was I just drew a wall, and this is something that you'll just have to get used to doing. I just drew a wall, and I didn't really pay attention to where it started and where it stopped, which is pretty important because Revit is a 3D, it's going to produce a 3D model, right? We're going to have 3D elements, and 3D elements need to be defined at the base, where they start, and they need to be defined at the top, where they end, okay? So what I should have done before I drew this wall is I should have come over to my properties dialog box, and I should have said the base constraint is level 1 and the top constraint is level 2. Okay, because otherwise if I hadn't done that, which I didn't, that wall is just going to be 20 feet tall. and it won't be constrained by anything at the top. Okay. All right. So I have that first wall. It goes from grid 2 to 7. And then I'm going to draw a wall going, we'll say southward there, right? From grid line A all the way down to grid line C. Okay. So now I'm going to go back up to my wall command. And I'm going to remember that number 1, I have a few settings. I need to figure out how I want to draw this. So finish face exterior. Still seems great to me. Okay. I don't want it unconnected at the top. I actually want it to go to level 2. And the base constraint level 1 looks good. Okay, so this is going to go from this grid line here. And you see how that little piece of wall overlaps. That's okay. In Revit, those will join together automatically, and it will be a nice, neat little corner. So 1 down 2 grid lines to right there. Click, right? And then I see that it comes down to there, and it goes over grid line to grid line 6. So I'm going to pop over here to grid line 6. Click. I'm going to pan and move down, and we go from grid line C all the way down to our last grid line, which is E. So this proceeds down all the way to the very end. Click. Escape. Right? So looks pretty good. We didn't get quite all of the elements, but that's okay for now. We're just practicing. I've come down to this point, and now I need to draw another wall from grid line 6 all the way over to grid line 1. Okay. So I come up to the wall command. I start where I ended up. Click. And again, it's drawing it the way it should, right? That wall is sitting up above that grid line. You have to get sort of observant about your drawings, right? Where are the walls lying on the grid line? Are they above it? Are they below it? Are they midline to it, right? And you have to draw accordingly. And this is going to go all the way over to our first grid line. Click. Okay, then it's going to go up to grid line D, which is up to there. Click. It's going to pop over here to grid line 2. Click, and then it's going to come up and connect with our starting point, right? And you're noticing I'm getting all of my object snapping, right? Click, escape. Okay, I'm going to pop into 3D, and it looks pretty good. Okay, now if I accidentally had something that looked like that, oh, not like that. Oh boy, really tall. I meant to type 20. If I did everything right and then I looked in 3D, because I always look in 3D now, right? I'm so used to Revit and having 3D and being able to pop in and out of that. I draw things and I immediately check them, right? It's like AutoCAD. I draw things and I immediately measure them to make sure they're right, because in AutoCAD I don't have a sense of scale just looking at the screen, right? So I have to measure everything to make sure it's right. In Revit, I actually have kind of a sense of scale on the screen, but what I don't have is a sense of verticality, right? I don't know how tall it went. And so I draw things and I immediately pop into 3D and look and see if they're correct, right? And if you see something like this, I'm going to select it and I'm going to say, oh, I forgot to get a top constraint. I'm going to change that to level 2, right? And it's as easy as that, okay? Let me just try something, and I think we can do this. Okay, yes we can. So this is an AutoCAD command, right, that we learned. It's match properties. Yep, everybody's like, oh yeah, Revit has match properties. So Revit has match properties, which is essentially, it's just a matching tool if you haven't used AutoCAD, where I can touch an object that I essentially like all the definition of, and I can sort of, with my cursor, I can capture all of those settings, and then I can apply them identically to another item, right? So if I want to take this wall and use match properties, which is MA, I'm not positive where it's at up here. Let's look under, I know, we'll use F1. The good old help menu. Is it under the what, sorry? Is it under modify? Okay. let's see. Yeah, it is under modify. Oh, where's my little find button? Modify clipboard match. Okay. So modify is at the end, and we have our clipboard. There it is, right there. But like I said, I don't ever go there, so I don't ever find it. Because MA is way quicker, right? So I can type MA, match properties, and I click on the item that I like, that I want to match something else to. So I'm going to click on this wall, click, because I like the wall style, and I like the base and top constraints. And then I'm going to click on this one that's wrong, click, and it will match that, right? So in this case, it matched the top constraint and the bottom constraint, essentially.
But it would match everything. If you had CMU on that,
right.
It would say CMU over there.
Yes, it would. Yep. All right. So that's our match properties. As I run across these kind of shortcuts that will help you, I'll throw them out there. All right. So we have our base building. Oh, what did I just do? See how easy that is? Just to mess up your entire model and not even know it. Okay, so I'm back to my level 1, and so I've got basically all of my exterior walls drawn, minus just a few little items here and there. But I think instead of kind of going and trying to fix some of these outer areas, first I'm going to go in and I'm going to try and create some of the interior walls, just so I have a little bit of visual definition on my screen, right? I can look at this and I can see it's the outline of the building, but you know, I like to know where the interior walls are, because then I can, for special elements, I can reference kind of where they are in relation to the interior walls and get them placed a little easier. So I think what I'll do first is I'm going to draw this little kitchen area, because it seems kind of easy to do, maybe. So a wall extends from this outer wall, grid line 2 here, and it extends over to the next grid line. Okay, so I'm going to go up and click on the wall command, and I'm just going to start right there. You see that? Go over to my next grid line, click, and then I've got this wall right here that extends from that grid line down to there. Now there is of course an opening, there's probably a beam across here or something, right? But we're not going to worry about that just yet. Okay. All right, so there's a fireplace, but there's no really interior partition here. So I'm going to come up here and I think I'm going to start drawing interior walls here. And of course I always kind of like to go to the easiest spot, right? So I'm looking here and I'm thinking these bathroom walls lie right on the grid lines, right? So I think I'm going to start drawing those. And they go between grid lines 4 and 5, and they go all the way down. Ooh, just a tiny bit past. So why is that, right? We're gonna figure that out. But I'm gonna get it as close as possible. I'm actually gonna likely draw that on the grid line and then figure out where it actually needs to go. That goes down to grid line C. Okay, so I'm going to initiate my wall command again, and I'm gonna go over here to grid line between grid line 4 and 5. And the wall lays on to the left of the grid line. Okay. Now, let me just show you one quick thing. This actually worked out pretty well. I'm still using finish face exterior, but let's say I wanted to use this same location line on my wall, but I wanted it on the opposite side. It did it wrong. I can spacebar. Okay, so I can flip the orientation of it to either side of that reference plane. Okay, makes sense? Okay, and that's going to go down not to one grid line, but almost to the second grid line here. And it goes a bit further past it, and we'll figure that out later, right? Again, with Revit, I kind of get things generally where they need to be, and then I revisit them. So I'm going to draw this over to here, and then back up again. Okay. So we've got, oh, there, no, is that a dimension? 9 inches? Where's that 9? Oh, right there, 9 inches. Ha. Okay. So I can figure out that. It looks like here's my grid line right there. And it looks like I have a 9-inch measurement right here. You see that? And it lines up with the edge of that wall, which then lines up with that. You guys see that? So it's 9 inches. The edge of that wall is 9 inches down from the grid line. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to move it. Select, move, click my base point, 9 inches, click. There we go. All right. So that sort of gives me, I'm going to do this wall right here because now I know where this wall ends, and I know it's 3'6" from that first wall, right? So I'm going to start drawing this little wall right here. And actually it's on the grid line, so I don't even need to know the 3'6". So wall, okay, and it lies on the left side of the grid line. And let's see, it goes, let's see where it goes up to. We have a dimension of 2'1" to there. Okay. So, oh, sorry, I'm trying to zoom on both sides and it's not quite working for me. Zoom over here, zoom over here. Okay. So I'm going to try and get this lined up as best I can. It may not quite line up there, but I'm going to, oh, it's on the wrong side of the grid line, so I'm going to space bar, click, and I'm going to draw a line over to here. And I know that that isn't necessarily in the right spot yet, but I can sort of manipulate it so it is, and it's the right shape, so it'll be easy to place. Okay, so I know that this has to line up with that, so I'm going to use the align command, AL, click, click. Great. So I'm to there, right? Now I know that we have 9 inches plus 2'1" to that wall. So what is that? 2'10", right? Okay. So we don't know how to dimension yet. I want to show you how to do a quick dimension to help you draw these a little bit more. I can measure this. I can come up to measure. And this works just by click, click. So I have a 2-foot measurement there. Knowing that, I could move this up 10 inches, right? But I'm not going to show you everything about dimensions, but I am going to show you how to do one quick linear dimension so that that's style so that you can draw a little bit better. I'm going to go to annotate, and we have an aligned dimension here. The shortcut is DI, so you'll see me doing DI all over the place. Aligned. Click on the first point. If I can't hit the first point, see how it's grabbing the midline? Wall center line. I'm going to change that to wall face. Click, click, click and space. 3 click. Look how easy that is, right? AutoCAD, that's a nightmare. Right? Like, oh my gosh. Setting up a dimension style, making sure the annotation scale is correct. I feel ya. I feel ya. All right, now if I select that wall, I get a temporary dimension, and I can type 2 foot 10 inches. And everything looks great. I can click on that dimension and hit delete. Okay, so I now know that this little area is where it needs to be, and I have that wall. Great. Okay, so next thing I want to place is this little closet wall. And we have a dimension from the grid line, 4'9" from the grid line. Okay. So again, this is, and I'm getting a lot of good examples of what I mean by I draw things in generally the right spot and then move them, right? Because I don't really know where 4'9" is from here. I could draw a reference plane and place it, but I'm just going to draw a wall because it'd be just as easy to draw a wall as a reference plane. Architecture wall. And I'm going to draw a wall that goes from here all the way over to there. Not exactly knowing, you know, where it needs to be. I'm going to create a dimension. DI is the shortcut, but I'll go the long way. And it's going to go from here down to the grid line. Click, click, click and space. And that needs to be 4'9". So I click on the wall, and I click on the temporary dimension. 4 space 9. Enter. Click, delete. Okay, so we're getting somewhere here. We have the closet wall now, right? And we have this little, whatever that is. Ooh, uh-oh. Oh, thanks. Okay. I think that might be it. Looks like maybe a little pantry or something right there, right? But also I know where this door is going to go and where this wall kind of comes over and meets the bathroom. And in fact, when I create a door, I'm going to need to bring this wall all the way over to there so I can put our door in a little bit. And, oh gosh, okay, let's see. All right. Okay, so I'm going to bring this wall over to here, and I'm going to type AL align. Click, click, and then I somehow need to place the closet wall here. Ooh, do we have not a dimension? Let's say, what size is door number 9? Do we have a door schedule here? 2'6". Okay, so that's 5. Those are 5-foot doors together. It's a 5-foot set. So if that's 5 foot together, likely that's a 6-foot closet right there, right? Okay, so I'm going to click on wall again. Generally get that wall where it needs to be. Do dimension, DI, I'm going to shortcut it this time. DI, click, click, grab it, 6 foot, enter. So here's, again, you know, I'm pretty quick at Revit. That would have taken me a lot less time in AutoCAD to draw those actual lines, right? Because with that, I had to draw a wall, I had to draw a second wall, I had to draw a dimension, and then I had to change it, right? So there were kind of 4 steps to it. I don't know. Although they all sort of cleaned themselves up very nicely, right? It all sort of went together nicely, but there definitely are some more steps associated with Revit drafting, I think. This looks like a little closet door, and just so that it sort of looks like an enclosure, I'm just going to type wall, WA, and I'm just going to close it off there. Oh, it's on the wrong side. Space bar. There we go. We have our little enclosure there. Okay, so we generally have most of these pieces here. Our bed will go over here. Let's draw our wall in between here. Okay, so we have another wall here that we haven't drawn yet. It's along grid line B. And this wall is actually thicker than this wall. So I think if we just draw our thickness of this wall just across that grid line, in between grid lines 4 and 5 will be okay. So I'm going to click on wall again, and I'm just going to draw a wall right there. Okay. And then we're going to draw a midpoint wall just down the center of those two. So I'm going to go back to wall again. This is the perfect instance where you want to draw a center line of a wall, right? Because you want to draw from the midpoint to get, you know, 5 foot, 5 foot. But I don't want to draw from one edge or the other. I'm going to change to finish face exterior, or sorry, center line. Center line, I draw down the center, and I have my bathrooms there. Starting to take shape, right? And I'm going to pop into 3D. Because I haven't really been paying attention to my top and bottom constraints. Usually after you define it once or twice, it remembers, right? So as I continue to draw, it's going to remember that if I'm on level 1, my walls are going to go from level 1 to level 2, right? So it generally remembers that, but I always like to kind of pop into 3D and just check and see what's happening. So it looks pretty good. Okay. All right. So let's draw now. We'll draw this little closet area over here. Okay, so we've got the bathrooms here, and we've got another little hallway here. And I need to kind of figure out where this wall comes over and kind of the depth of this little, whatever, number 8, probably a washer and dryer maybe, something in there, right? Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is look here, finding whatever I can. It looks like this wall is 3'9" from our wall here. And that wall goes all the way across to there. Okay, I don't know where 3'9" is again, so I sort of just start drawing it, and then I'm going to place it. Okay, so I draw it from here to here, knowing that I'm going to have to put a dimension, DI, DI, click, click, click in space to end it. That's going to be 3'9", 3'9". There we go. Click on it, delete. Okay, sorry guys, I have to take a quick break. A little sneezing fit. I need to go to tissue. I'll be right back. Sorry. 2 minutes. All right. There we go. All right, here we go. So we have now kind of the basics here drawn, and I've got this wall that comes over here. Now I could have also, it looks like, placed it using this dimension, right, which would have been kind of nice as well. But now I need to place where this wall goes. And it looks like the closet wall just kind of is this wall extended up, so I'm going to use a line. AL, click. Oop, I don't want that whole wall. I want just the edge of this one. I don't know if I'll be able to grab it. Tab, 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 tab. Nope. So I'm going to click on this wall, and I'm going to show you how to use a grip stretch. Okay, this is somewhat like AutoCAD, where if I click on an element like a wall, I get this little blue grip here at the end. Okay, and if I click on it and hold my mouse and I move that object, I can drag it up and stretch it. Okay, so because I couldn't quite get the line to work, I stretched it. I could also do Control Z, okay, and I undid that. And I could also, if I needed to, go up to wall, and I could have drawn, I'm going to change my wall location line, and I could just have drawn another one just like that, essentially, right? Either way would have been a good way of going about it. So now I have, it looks like I just have this one wall. I don't really see a dimension anywhere. I'll have to let them know about that, right? I'm just kidding. There's one wall, but it looks like this is a washer and a dryer. What is number 8? Let's look. Laundry. And so I would assume that washer dryer is like 30 inches by 30 inches. So this could be like maybe 36 inches in here. So we'll draw a wall. We'll give them 36 inches for the plug and all that for the washer dryer, right? So I'm going to click on wall. Again, placing a wall somewhat where I think it needs to go. I don't quite know where it needs to go. Dimension, DI. Click on that wall, change it to 3 feet. Looks about right. Okay. Now, the only other thing we have here, and this looks, I think it's outside. It looks like it's an outdoor kind of tub. And we don't really know how to draw things like floors yet. So this little area out here would be kind of defined with a railing, number 1, but we would have like a floor here, not any enclosing walls, right? So right now I think it's okay to just kind of leave it like that, right? That's okay. And we don't, of course, have kind of the right wall type. We don't have any windows or doors, anything like that. So that's okay. We haven't done the fireplace yet, which again, we don't have the wall type knowledge to do that quite yet, so I'm okay with that. And we don't know how to do floors yet, so I'm not really going to worry about you doing the deck quite yet, okay? But what I would like you to do is just really kind of focus on, for next week, just getting this much of the plan done, okay? And then when we meet again, we're going to talk about creating wall types. And then we'll move very quickly through all the rest of the building elements. So it's like wall types, and then doors and windows, and then floors, and then roofs. Like, we'll learn one new building element every single class, right? And we'll be able to very quickly put the rest of these elements into this project. Does maybe everybody feel fairly comfortable doing this much? Yeah, she's already got hers done over here. She's just gonna hit submit, right? I think in your assignment, actually, I asked you to do a couple more levels, like to add a roof one, but that would be, that's the only thing we didn't do here. Like, I think I asked you to do one more, like, anyway. But so to create that one, you would come over here to levels, right? And I think I said to put it at 16 feet, something to that effect. So you do 16 feet. Oh, and I do think I asked you to do a basement level, just so that you could see what that looked like, right? And I think, see, it's just getting really bad. I can't even remember what let's see, 0, top of wall 10, 15, 15. Oh, I took those out. I took the basement out. Sorry, it was in there, but it's not anymore. So I think we'll change that to 15. But if you had to create a basement level, right, and you're thinking, oh, it needs to go negative, I don't quite know how to do that, right? Well, when you create a level in Revit and you go below level 1, it automatically knows that you're going in the negative direction. Yours did that too? Yeah. So I could come in here and type, negative 10 foot, and there's my next level. Okay. We're not going to use all of these just yet, but we will, right? So it's good to get them going. But I think for now, I think just kind of getting this worked out is going to be a pretty good drawing assignment for you. And, pay attention to your wall heights, pay attention to creating levels. Make sure that you're pretty accurate drawing your grid, okay? If you wanted to put some dimensions on your grid, you could use that same tool we'd been using to leave dimensions there, right? So I could come in here and I could type DI dimension, and I could just click and click. And this is, I'm getting, moving forward a little bit, but I could just continue on, right? I don't end the dimension until I click in space. So I could just continue to add dimensions if I wanted to, just to kind of make sure, click in space, right, that those things were looking the way they should. Click.
You click and hit space?
Nope, you just click, you just continue to click between elements, and when you're done, you click in space.
Okay.
You don't hit this, did you mean I hit the space bar? You click in space. Yes, nope. So yeah, that was a little confusing, I guess, terminology. Click, and then I just click over here, click, and because it didn't have an element to sense, it just ended itself, essentially. So I could leave those dimensions there just to kind of give me a visual cue on, hey, were my grids right? Did everything lay right? Of course, I'm putting dimensions all over the place in here to place things. You'll notice that when I place something, if there's a dimension associated with it, I finish my work and then I delete the dimension, right? Because I've learned over time that you get a lot of elements in these drawings, and the cleaner they are, the easier it is to work. So you're like, well, why didn't you just leave that dimension so you knew it was right? Well, I just know that if I leave 50 dimensions all over the place, it's just going to get messy. So I delete them. All right, any questions so far? Okay, I'll end it there then. I think that's a pretty good amount of drawing to do. I think I had this due on Tuesday, so if you worked on it over the weekend and had questions on Monday, we could address those. On Monday, we have kind of a big topic, which is wall definition. So we'll talk about wall assemblies, how to define those, which is kind of it kind of sets the precedent, honestly, for the rest of items that you're going to generate in Revit, because the way that you do it is the way you generate everything else. So that is your assignment.